And we will be covering chapter 11 today, which is Two Penniless Boys in Brindaban. So, those who are watching online as well as here, if you have the book with you, great. It's always wonderful to kind of go through the chapter together. And as many of you would know, that this chapter is really about how to practice your willpower, how to surrender, but while doing that, completely have a level of faith in the gods, in the gurus, which will take you through any circumstances in life. So that is what we will be going through today. It's a very inspiring chapter. So let's join young Mukunda in his journey uh, in this path of finding his guru, finding self realization, and to be an inspiration for all of us throughout ages for several hundreds of years. And as always, before that, we will start with a chant. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek.
Let's sing along.
Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. In the thought by my love brought, in the thought by my love brought, I taste thy name, so sweet, so sweet. Devotee knows how sweet you are. Devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. He knows whom you let know. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. With that bhav of absolute devotion and surrender to the Lord, we will first pray together and then enter into a brief meditation. Please join me. Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, Beloved God,
Friend,
Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashay,
Narayan Mahashaya,
Swami Sri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri
our beloved Guru,
Guru,
Paramhansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
humbly we bow at thy feet.
humbly we bow at thy feet.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
great Masters,
great Master,
we bow to your omnipresent Spirit.
we bow to your omnipresent Spirit.
Teach us how to practice
Teach us how to practice
true surrender
true surrender
and help us to cultivate faith
and help us to cultivate
and devotion
devotion
in all circumstances.
in all circumstances.
Guide me, bless me, Purify me and infuse me with thy love, through which we may expand our consciousness
we may expand our consciousness
to become one with thee
to become
and to become one with all.
and to become one with all.
Om. Let's meditate now just for a few minutes, calming our hearts and centering ourselves. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Staying in this calmness, let's listen to, and not just listen, but pray with Master. Flowers and skies, heralds of thee. Flowers, cloud scattered skies, and all beautiful, blossoming scenery. All these only suggest thy divinity. I enjoy them, I revel in them, but then they remind me of thee. In that remembrance, these mere, though glorious, messengers vanish, and the beauty of my own beloved infinity enthralls me. Oh,
Om. So we are on page 94, which is chapter 11, two penniless boys in Brindaban. And just to give some context as to what has happened just before this chapter, we know in chapter 10, young boy Mukunda finally finds his guru, and there is this wonderful exchange of unconditional love when two great souls meet after several incarnations. But towards the end of the chapter, as we know, Swami Sri Yukteswarji asked the young boy Mukund that you must go back home and you will return here in 4 weeks. And that's not something which Mukunda was particularly pleased about, because he was in this euphoric trance state after meeting his guru. And the last thing that he expected was that he would be asked to go back home, back to the same home where his elder brother Ananta and his family have been, in a way, rebuking him for his spiritual pursuits. And then, towards the end of the chapter, he tells his friend Jitendra, they also leave the Banaras hermitage, and the journey with his friend Jitendra continues at the start of this chapter as well.
So, Swami Kriyananda says that in the biography of Yoganandaji that he has written, he does not talk about this chapter. He only says that this is one of the best chapters which is there in autobiography, and he would not write anything on this chapter. This chapter is best enjoyed in autobiography as it is. And so, with that understanding, let's enjoy this chapter.
Yeah. It would serve you right if Father disinherited you, Mukunda. How foolishly you're throwing away your life. An elder brother's sermon was assaulting my ears. By now, I'm sure all of us are also used to who his elder brother Ananta really is. Jitendra and I, fresh from the train, had just arrived at the home of Anant, recently transferred from Calcutta to the ancient city of Agra. Brother was a supervising accountant for the Bengal Nagpur Railway. You well know, Anant, I seek my inheritance from the Heavenly Father. What I like about this sentence is in one of the previous chapters, The Saint with Two Bodies, Mukunda looks at Swami Pranabananda and tells which are what is the other pension that you're talking about? Because he speaks about two pensions, one which is enjoying from his earthly life and one which is enjoying from his heavenly father. And then Mukunda, as a sweet boy, says, is the heavenly father pouring coins or
Dropping
money
rupees
on
on
your
your lap.
lap? Something like that. But now that he is completely convinced that his inheritance lies in the Heavenly Father, he is using that with his elder brother. You well know, Ananta, I seek my inheritance from the Heavenly Father. Money first, God can come later. Who knows? Life may be too long. And Mukunda says, God first, money is his slave. Who can tell? Life may be too short. So, instant exchanges between the two brothers. My retort was summoned by the exigencies of the moment and held no presentiment. Yet the leaves of time unfolded to early finality for Ananta. A few years later, he entered the land where bank notes avail neither first nor last. So we know that Ananta, after a few years, passes away. But Master is very careful to say that my exchange with Ananta here is not triggered by any kind of forewarning. It's simply triggered by the exigencies of the moment and nothing else.
Now, what is he was just they were in a hermitage in Banaras. Okay, they wanted to go to Calcutta to meet the Guru, Yukteswarji, right? Why would you go to Agra, which is in a different direction, sub 600 kilometers away? I mean, they are definitely um, focused on God, but being boys, they also enjoy sightseeing. And so they thought that, okay, once we go to Calcutta, we'll be too far away from the Taj Mahal. Let's use this
Yeah.
opportunity to have some fun. And it just shows a very, it throws a very telling light on their mental makeup, always ready for adventure.
Yeah. Also, the fact that maybe in 3 to 4 weeks' time, their schooling will officially begin. And, when you enter the spiritual path, you don't know how much of a discipline or a rigor will be required, right? You're entering the path of a renunciate. So maybe the last few days of having fun by sightseeing in Agra. Now, wisdom from the hermitage, I suppose. This is Ananta again. But I see you have left Banaras, and his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. He yet hoped to secure my opinions in the family nest. My sojourn in Banaras was not in vain. I found there everything my heart had been longing for. You may be sure it was not your Pandit or his son. So, quick recall, Ananta had organized for a Pandit to kind of brainwash young Mukunda to leave the spiritual path and to convince him that he needs to follow the regular material life of family. What are your plans, my wandering brother? Jitendra persuaded me to Agra. We shall view the beauties of the Taj Mahal, and then we are going to go to my newly found guru, uh, who has a hermitage in Serampur.
Here, uh, Master is looking for God very ardently. I mean, maybe as ardently as anyone has ever looked for God. But he knows very clearly that God comes manifest as the Guru. And that is why, while he has been looking for God, it is actually his Guru who he had been looking for, because he knew that the search would end once I find my Guru. After that, under Guru's guidance, the journey will still continue till he reaches the divine shore. But the search, the feeling that you're lost, you're looking for something, that would end. And this line is so telling. I found there everything my heart had been longing for. He's not found God yet, he's not achieved samadhi yet, but those things are secondary. It was reaching the feet of his guru which was important. And now that he has done that, even though they had a bit of disagreement in the end, but that doesn't mar the fact that he has found the guru, and now um, God is near, as they say.
So you feel quite independent of father's wealth. Ananta's gaze was innocent as he resumed the barbs of yesterday's conversation. I am conscious of my dependence on God, Mukunda says. So Ananta again, words are cheap. Life has shielded you thus far. What a plight if you were forced to look to the invisible hand for your food and shelter. You would soon be begging on the streets. I find this very interesting where an elder brother is trying to tell a younger brother that because you have the comforts of your homely life, you are able to pursue uh, your search for God. However, placing that faith in God, not having the basic material comforts of life, is something that most people miss. You have the advantage of that already, and that's why you are, giving such big speeches and having these exchanges of words with me. Um, I remember, as growing up when we were all studying or when we were struggling for finances or we were trying to look for a job, if somebody would come and tell us about going to a spiritual path or attending a satsang, very often that thought would come to our mind as well. Right now, all I'm looking for is to have a stable, steady life. If I am not going to earn money, what good all of this is going to come to? Now, we need to understand that a person who is dedicated his life to finding God and practicing sadhana on a regular basis, gurus and God take care of him. So even when that soul reincarnates in the next lifetime, somehow the circumstances in which he is born support the soul's spiritual practice. So, quite often, and we see this in the case of Mukunda, we know that his father was in the railways. They were quite well off financially, which allowed young Mukunda to pursue all of these things that we've gone through in the previous 10 chapters. And not just that, even when he is going to America to share the teachings with a wider audience, his father's financial means are there to support him. But we have to have faith that God is going to take care of us not just in this lifetime but in subsequent lifetimes as well. And things like the material comforts and finances, God will find a way to take care of it as long as our goal is extremely clear that we want God come what may.
There is no fixed template for this, at least no fixed outward template that only if you leave everything, only then your faith is true. It is Faith is something which is actually between us and God. It is something inside us. How much centered we are in our own self and not untouched, as Sri Krishna says in Gita, untouched by what's happening around. Or how much are we actually at the feet of God and have faith that whatever is happening is unfolding for my own development, for my own unfoldment. And that faith is an inner matter. So if you even look at the lives of saints, Babaji is in the Himalayas, he doesn't need anything. But Laidi Maharaj, he didn't live on the streets. He carried out his own dharma. But while doing that, in his own being, he was not dependent on the job that he was doing. He had to take tuitions also to supplement the income so as to support his family. But inwardly, he was never dependent on those things. His allegiance was always fixed. Look at Sri Yukteswarji. Sri Yukteswarji also was not on the streets, but he also made sure that his life followed this inner attunement, and he arranged everything in a way that he sold off his estates. He took that money, most of his money, he invested in government bonds at that point of time. Today we look for investment advisors. At that time he made that investment so that he could keep getting dividend, which will allow him the financial freedom to pursue, and not just his own spiritual sadhana but also of others. And this guidance of getting regular income also came from God. So this tuning in is not just outwardly leaving everything and then just sitting under the tree and feeling it. "Nahi, now everything will be taken care of." That's not how Swamiji built Ananda. It is always built, this faith is always put into practice by doing what we need to do, and having the faith that we will be supported. The universe will support, the God will support. And that is where our faith is tested, and that is where the faith, it keeps improving, because faith is belief which has been lived, because otherwise it's just a mental concept, right? When Prahlad jumped off the cliff, he had that faith, and that is why he got saved. People who don't have that faith, if only you mentally believe and if you jump off, that is why master says that build your faith slowly, by doing, by testing God, and allow God to show that you are supported. And slowly, as God shows you that you are supported, that inner faith, that inner connection will keep on improving. And as it will improve, you will have a firm conviction without being told from outside that I am taken care of. It's not a pretense that you have to put on. It is something as natural as when we get up in the morning, we take a deep breath and we know that the air is there. Nobody has to come and tell us. There is no affirmation that we need to do, right? No willpower to put out for the air to manifest. Just naturally, that faith is there. And even in our own lives as devotees, we may have seen that even little things get taken care of by God. The more we go to the center, the more we go closer to God and experience it.
Suppose I suggest that your wanted philosophy be put to a test in this tangible world. Then Mukunda says, I would agree. Do you confine God to a speculative world? We shall see. Today you shall have the opportunity either to enlarge or to confirm my own views. This is what Ananta says after a pause, and then spoke slowly and seriously. I propose that I send you and your fellow disciple Jitendra this morning to the nearby city of Brindaban. You must not take a single rupee. You must not beg, either for food or money. You must not reveal your predicament to anyone. You must not go without your meals. And you must not be stranded in Brindaban.
5 conditions.
If you return to my bungalow here before 12 o'clock tonight without having broken any rule of the test, I shall be the most astonished man in Agra. Extremely well thought out scheme his brother has given him. You cannot even tell anyone of your predicament that, oh, we are young boys, please have mercy on us. Because when you go to Brindaban, that city is, right? So if they see two boys they will naturally come to help you. But no, they've been given strict instructions not to talk about it. And this is what Mukunda says: I accept the challenge. No hesitation was in my words or in my heart. Instant response. And this is beautiful what he says in terms of no hesitation was there either in my words or in my heart. Many of us try to read these books of New Age philosophy where we try to understand how the law of positivity or attraction works, right? And we are told to do some affirmations and to visualize things, which we do. Unfortunately, many of us fail, and then we discredit the practice itself. But the way our masters have taught us how affirmations need to be done, it creates a harmony between your outward words as well as what's actually going on in your heart. If there is disharmony and if you try to say something only outwardly but your heart is not convinced or it doesn't believe in something, no matter how much you try to do it through spoken words, it's very hard for it to manifest. But here we see that conviction, that harmony, that truth of having that internal belief is what came out in spoken words. And that is why the universe comes to support that person whose entire being is moving in one direction, which is towards the goal. And of course, he talks about grateful memories, everything that happened in his boyhood, whether it is the deadly cholera of which he was healed through Lahiri Maashe, the amulet story, which we know all about, the Benares Sadhu outside the compound of the Pandit's home when Master was thinking, why am I not being supported in my goal of renunciation? And the majestic words of Divine Mother when Master had lost his earthly mother. Never could I admit my philosophy unequal to any tussle on the world's harsh proving ground. Ananta says, your willingness does you credit. I'll escort you to the train at once. Ananta turned to the open mouthed Jitendra. You must go along as a witness and very likely a fellow victim. A half an hour later, Jitendra and I were in possession of one way tickets for our impromptu trip. We submitted in a secluded corner of the station to a search of our persons. As faith invaded the serious realms of finance, my friend spoke protestingly. Ananta, give me 1 or 2 rupees as a safeguard. Then I can telegraph you in case of misfortune. Jitendra, I will not proceed with the test if you take any money as final security. And this is what Jitendra now has to say. There is something reassuring about the clink of coins, Jitendra said, no more as I regarded him sternly.
I
Now,
mean, how we feel if we go out and we have our wallet versus if we don't have our wallet and phone.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
what he's talking about.
And this may appear very funny to us right now that Jitendra is saying this, but I mean, think about the enormous amount of energy and time that we spend in securing a stable future for ourselves and for our families. And of course, I'm not advocating that we don't do that. In fact, one of the philosophies of Ananda has always been that each devotee needs to have their own financial independence to be able to live harmoniously in a community. So, of course, that aspect is very important. But while we are doing that, how much are we mentally depending on our own bank account? Quite often we are just shaping our lives in a way that perhaps some of us will be able to follow our spiritual path in a certain way if only we have so much money lying in the bank account. And despite being disciples of Master, how much are we placing our faith in the Masters that everything is anyways being guided by him anyway, right? So where is a sense of security coming from? That is the most important thing. And I just want to quickly talk about the principle of tithing here as well, right? For many of us, parting away with the 10% of the income that we get, which is anyways coming from God in the first place, is not an easy practice to follow. And somehow, when I think of this, I feel that when I'm giving 10% of what I earn back to God, I feel that I'm still depending on my sense of security in life. 90% of that is still coming from my money. Because if I had 90% faith in God taking care of my family and my wealth, maybe I would have tithed to the extent of 90% and not only 10%. So it's just a reflection of how much we are willing to give away financially. It's a reflection of how much faith and trust we are placing in God to take care of us versus our own effort in terms of financial means. And of course, it's always best to strike a balance till we are able to reach that level of faith which Mukunda, the young boy, has reached.
Here, now here Ananta's role is very interesting. um, he is somewhat like their father, or how his father was earlier, before his father met Laidi Mahasaya. Their father met Laidi Mahasaya. So he is very practical, rooted on the practical realities of the world. But he also understands, he's seen his father, he has seen other Guru Bhais of his father, he has seen how Mukunda has been. So, few things that come here is one, he knew that very likely Mukunda will go ahead, go along with this test. So there is that recognition that this person is serious. If I need to bring him around, I will have to really put what he believes into test. Also, one thing which he is very sure of is that Mukunda is truthful. That if I have putting these five conditions and if he has accepted these five conditions, he will stick to those five conditions. Otherwise, it's very easy to con him. I mean, Jitendra was his friend. They could have just gone and have a party. And as he said, Vrindavan is full of people who will be willing to help. You could go, could eat anywhere, seek help, come back, and you could have passed the test with flying marks. But that, and that is why he says, your willingness does you credit. And as we'll see later on, there is a change that is slowly coming into him, and you can see that most of this that has happened, it was not really to test Mukunda's faith. It was actually for the benefit of his brother who had recently been transferred to Agra as a 27-year-old man. And it was also probably for the benefit of Jitendra, who, as we'll see, is not as rooted in his faith as our master is.
Yeah. Mukunda, I'm not heartless. A hint of humility had crept into Ananta's voice. It may be that his conscience was smiting him, perhaps for sending two insolvent boys to a strange city, perhaps for his own religious skepticism. If by any chance or grace you pass successfully through the Brindaban ordeal, I shall ask you to initiate me as your disciple. This is a promise which is coming from an elder brother during those times that I will, in a way, accept you as my guru and I will take initiation from you. And like Abhijit said, of course, there is this conviction in his elder brother as well that he is going to pass the test. Now, I know that many of us face a lot of tests from our own family members, and clearly they're not convinced that we will pass those tests. But how can we see even our family members as being sent to us by God to test our faith and to really push us on our spiritual journey because we will never grow otherwise? Now, this promise had a certain irregularity in keeping with the unconventional occasion. The eldest brother in an Indian family seldom bows before his juniors. He receives respect and obedience second only to a father. But no time remained for my comment. A train was at a point of departure. Now, Jitendra is already in doubt. He says, I see no sign that God is going to supply our next meal. Come on, we've just started on this journey. Be quite doubting, Thomas. The Lord is working with us, right?
This reminds of another train journey that we enjoyed of Thomas and Thompson.
Yes,
A
yes.
lot of fun
The
happens on
hysterical
these
and the
train journeys.
theoretical. Can you also, so be quiet, doubting Thomas. The Lord is working with us. Can you also arrange that he hurry? Already I am famished merely at the prospect before us. How much energy he is draining thinking about the whole day that lies before. I left Banaras to view the Taj mausoleum, not to enter my own.
Now, all this discussion happened during an early breakfast, so they are well fed, okay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Jitendra is already hungry.
Cheer up, Jitendra. Are we not to have our first glimpse of the sacred wonders of Brindaban? I am in deep joy at the thought of treading the ground hallowed by feet of Lord Krishna. What is very interesting here is, we often talk about, oh, how nice it would be for me to go on a pilgrimage with my Guru Bhais. How nice it would be for me to be with a saint, and there will automatically be a transformation in me, and I will forget everything about the worries of life and I will find God. But that seldom happens. If we go on a pilgrimage, and let's suppose that morning itself I received a stinker email from my boss, how hard it is for me to think about what lies ahead of me in the pilgrimage and to forget about that email and what am I going to do. And the entire 2 days, a lot of energy may get completely wasted where I have neither been able to enjoy the pilgrimage nor obviously have I been able to do anything about the challenging situation at work. And that is exactly the position that Jitendra finds himself in. He has the company of a saint like boy Mukunda. They are going to Brindaban, but only thing that is plaguing his mind is how are we going to survive this ordeal? And Mukunda, on the other hand, is swimming in that ocean, thinking about the joy of treading the same ground as Lord Krishna. He's least worried about what is going to happen. And the door of our compartment opened. Two men seated themselves before them, and they say, "Young lads, do you have friends in Brindaban?" The stranger opposite me was taking a surprising interest. "None of your business." Rudely, I avoided my gaze. So, you see, something is already beginning to happen here. God already seems to be manifesting his divine intervention. But Mukunda just wants to be doubly sure. बहुत सारे लोग आते हैं वृंदावन में. None of your business. He is testing his own faith. Let's see what happens next. You are probably flying away from your families under the enchantment of the stealer of hearts. I am of devotional temperament myself. I will make it my positive duty to see that you receive food and shelter from this overpowering heat. Okay?
No, surprising. That suddenly two people come in, and as we know, it is not that they have some feast was happening and suddenly they have decided to take interest in them and help them. They were on a mission, so things were in motion for them already much before this plan came into Ananta's mind. Right, the feast that we'll see later on is already in preparation, it's already ready even before Ananta thought of the plan. So
And
then
even
I
Parth's dream of,
huh,
you know, Yogananda manifesting in the dream,
yeah,
already
so
in motion.
then you begin to question how much was Ananta's role in all this.
Yeah. Time does not exist in these subtle realms.
Yeah.
So once again, Mukunda says, "No, sir, let us alone. You are very kind, but you are mistaken in judging us to be truants from home. We alight before a stately hermitage set amidst the evergreen trees of well kept ground." So what happens is that once they get down to the platform, their chance companions linked arms with them and summoned the horse cab. And they then reach this grand hermitage where the two boys who they met, they reach that place and they tell Gorima the princess could not come. One of the men addressed the ashram hostess. At the last moment, their plans went awry. They sent deep regrets, but we brought two other guests. As soon as we met them on the train, I felt drawn to them as devotees of Lord Krishna. And then they leave them and go. After that, what we see is that not only is there basic necessity of food being provided for, like Abhijit mentioned, they are subjected to a kingly feast of at least I think 25, 30 different courses were being provided to them, and the lady was fanning them while they were enjoying their feast. And when you think of this, it was almost like they were being treated as guests of God. For those people who would have decided not to take the test and would have gone with their modest amount of money and went to the temples of Brindaban and had a regular tour and come back, they would have never been able to experience the abundance that God can provide. Their own modest means would have only taken them so far, but here, when they had faith in God, this is what they are being treated to. Everything was coming. This whole divine Leela is basically taking place where the karmas of different people come together to make this manifest. And they were surprised what their royal patrons could have found more urgent than attending this banquet. I cannot imagine. You've given us a memory for a lifetime
And this was a meal like no meal they ever had.
in
They're
this life.
saying this
Yeah.
is the best meal we ever had in this life. And here Jitendra was thinking that they are going to get famished.
Yeah.
And they are used to fasting in the hermitage, okay? They have fasted for 24 hours and more than that. So you could have, if you could have just held your center, you could have just thought, okay, one day of fasting, it's okay. We'll go do a sightseeing. It's a pilgrimage. We'll fast during the pilgrimage. It's fine. Somehow we'll come back.
And like such a sweet boy, he says, since arriving on this planet, Jitendra and I had never before tasted such delicacies. So soon enough, they are well fed. They step out in the merciless heat, and look what Jitendra has to say. A fine mess you have got me into. Can you imagine? Our luncheon was only accidental good fortune. How can we see the sights of the city without a single pice between us? And how on earth are you going to take me back to Ananta's? Already doubt is creeping into his mind. And again, once again, we may find this extremely funny, but let's really introspect in our lives. Yesterday, God may have answered our prayers, but are we having doubts today? For so many years, we have faced situations at work in family, which lo and behold, with the guidance of Guru, we have been able to navigate. And each one of those tests we know very well have come to us for our own spiritual progress. But the moment we face one more test, we begin to doubt in our own ability and our Guru's ability to guide us through that test as well.
It's a it's actually a story of all of us. Jitendra is there as our representative. Let's put it that way.
That's why Master took him with him.
And in all of our lives, we have gone through situations where we've been helped, but next time that anxiety has come back again. There have been, as he said, whether it is workplace or so many times in my own life, I am late for a flight, and it is only through the grace of God that all the lights were green, and the flights, the people there were, kind enough to let me board. And this has happened so many times. Okay, but am I not anxious the next time I'm running late? I am anxious, right? And so I really admire Jitendra for the courage that he has shown. If this question was put to us, many of us would have abandoned Mukunda. We would have said, "You are firm of your
Yeah,
faith, you
yeah.
go. I am not coming in between this drama of you and your brother. You both can do whatever you want. I am going to see the Taj Mahal." But credit to him, he's a true friend. All shortcoming aside, he's also a spiritual seeker like us. He's actually, in spite of his lack of sufficient courage, he has some courage, but lack of sufficient courage, still he goes ahead with Mukunda, complaining like we've caught our Guru's hand. We are on the path, but we complain every day. And this is what is happening, that Guru keeps teaching us that, look, please remember, last time I helped you, before that I helped you.
Be quiet, Jitendra. The same Lord who fed us will show us Brindaban and return us to Agra. And then soon after, there is this young man of pleasing countenance that approached them at a rapid pace. And he bowed before Mukunda and says, "Dear friend, you and your companion must be strangers here. Permit me to be your host and guide." It is scarcely possible for an Indian to pale, but Jitendra's face was suddenly sickly. I politely declined the offer. And then the stranger says, "You're surely not banishing me. Why not?" That's when the stranger narrates his beautiful story. "You are my Guru. During my midday devotions, the blessed Lord Krishna appeared in a vision. He showed me two forsaken figures under this very tree. One face was yours, my master. Often have I seen it in meditation. What joy if you accept my humble services." Right? So you see again a beautiful divine Leela playing. On one hand, Ananta is testing the two young boys, but here a devotee of Lord Krishna who already practices regular meditation, God has brought both of these stories to beautifully intersect, and to make this happen where the boy here gets an opportunity to be initiated into Kriya Yoga through this whole funny accident or situation or the journey or the trip that two young boys are enjoying. "I am too glad that you have found me. Neither God nor man has forsaken us." Though I was motionless, smiling at the eager face before me, an inward obeisance cast me at the divine feet. "Dear friends, will you not honor my home for a visit? You are kind, but the plan is unfeasible. Already we are guests of my brother in Agra."
So throughout this, master is not jumping to take any help. I mean, he's also making it difficult for God to help him. It's not like if somebody has come and offered you help, you immediately accept, right? If we were in that situation, we will say ki, yes, yes, thank God for showing me the way. But those
Oops.
strangers who were there, they also, he said, no, no, we don't need your help. This person also has come to help him, and he is saying ki, no, I don't need your help. I frankly don't know what to take away from this, but maybe not to trust people too quickly.
So, as we see, the young boy then takes them for a tour of Agra. This is exactly what Jitendra was hoping for. And then towards the end, he wants to serve them sandesh, the sweets from the east part of the country. And then Mukunda says, "Pratap, I will instruct you in the Kriya of Lahiri Mahasaya, the greatest yogi of modern times." He then goes on to talk about the Kriya technique itself, which we all know. Hindu scriptures teach that the incarnating ego requires 1,000,000 years to obtain liberation from Maya. This natural period is greatly shortened through Kriya Yoga, just as Jagdish Chandra Bose has demonstrated that plant growth can be accelerated far beyond its normal rate. So man's psychological development can also be speeded by an inner science. Be faithful in your practice. You will approach the guru of all gurus. And of course, there is a chapter later on in the book where he delves deeper into the science. Um,
So here, this is what Lahiri Mahasaya also used to tell his disciples, that whether I am with you physically or even after I'm gone, it is actually the Kriya technique who is your guru. And later on, as Master has also said, Kriya is your Chintamani. Chintamani is essentially the money in our scriptures, which is wish
hmm.
fulfilling. It removes all troubles. So Kriya is your Chintamani, and in fact, whenever people would come to Lahiri Mahasaya for help, instead of directly helping him, he would actually ask them to put out some self-effort and say, "Go and do more Kriya." And it was Kriya which would purify you and also attract grace that would be needed to correct whatever needs to be corrected, to bring about whatever blessings need to be brought about. And maybe Pratap Chatterjee, which is his name, maybe this is the first disciple that Master has acquired. And as we'll see, he acquires another disciple later on. But interestingly, while it is not in this book, but his master's younger brother gives a story where when master was in school, and And it's a different story where it's not the disciple who was seeking the guru was seeking the disciple. So there, master had a vision that one of his classmates was his disciple, and he went goes to him and says, "You are my disciple, I am your guru." And he says, "What are you talking? You are my guru, now go." But next day in his meditation, God revealed it to him that, "Oh, he is your guru, what are you doing?" And he came to class early and he was like, "Oh God, I need to seek pardon and I need to seek my guru." But the guru was playful. Mukunda was hiding behind a tree. And that boy was running around looking for, where is my guru? So maybe that boy was the first
He
disciple that.
loved to play pranks always,
Yeah.
as a child. Imagine you were seeing somebody manifesting in your dreams, in your meditation, and then the next day you see, "Oh, this is the same person who came in my dreams now running around a tree." So we sat a while. So then the Kriya initiation happens, and then they sat a while in silent understanding. They go back to the train. But this was Jitendra's day for tears now as they boarded the train. My affectionate farewell to Pratap had been punctuated by stifled sobs from both my companions. And then Jitendra says, "How shallow my trust. My heart has been stone. Never in future shall I doubt God's protection." So this is what Jitendra is just saying right now. And a little while later, we will realize that when Mukunda tells Jitendra, we have to go to Serampur. We have to meet our master. Jitendra says he's missing his family and goes back to them. Even though moments before he's saying, "How shallow my trust and my heart has been stone. Never in future shall I doubt God's protection." So what?
So many times each of us must have received divine protection and would have told ourselves, "How shallow my trust! My heart has been stone. Never in future shall I doubt God's protection." But then in the future, we forget really the
Yeah.
feeling of that protection that came, and again we start doubting.
Yeah.
So Jitendra is our man.
And it's very clear here that all of these stories are being, all of these stories and incidents are happening to teach us a lesson. Master, he is already a self-realized master. He's just met his guru. He's not even yet been formally initiated by Yukteswar ji, but then he's initiated Pratap Chatterjee. He initiates his elder brother into Kriya. So he's already a self-realized master. But as we said before, even a self-realized master has a particular mission or a purpose when they reincarnate, and the purpose in this life for master is to go and share the teachings in the West, and that is the reason why Yukteswar ji also plays a very specific role in his life. And then when they go back, obviously Anand's first response is, "Jitendra, the truth, has not this youngster been staging a hold up?" But
Hold
as the
up
tale
means
unfolded,
robbing people.
yes, like a prankster that he always is well known for. And then Ananta's turn to now say, "The law of demand and supply reaches into subtle realms than I had supposed." Ananta spoke with a spiritual enthusiasm never before noticeable. "I understand for the first time your indifference to the walls and the vulgar accumulations of the world. Later, as it was, my brother insisted that he receive Diksha into Kriya Yoga, and the Guru Mukunda had to shoulder the responsibilities of two unsought disciples in one day. And then, of course, they later go to see the Taj Mahal as well, something which was the initial plan. And then Mukunda says, "You shall not be cheated of the Taj. Let us view it before starting for Serampur." And then, after the whole of sightseeing, even while it is going on, Mukunda says, "Enough of sightseeing. I was longing for my guru." Jitendra and I were shortly traveling south by train towards Bengal. And then Jitendra says, "Mukunda, I have not seen my family in months. I have changed my mind. Perhaps later I shall visit your master in Serampur." Perhaps later. And again, how many times we come in the company of saints, Many of our Guru Bhais and all of us are treading on the path of Kriya Yoga already. How many times do we as a group come together in very deep meditation? You may meditate for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. We come out of meditation and we are all in bliss. And then minutes later, many of us, certainly I do, what do we think of? Well, I am hungry now, and the mind immediately goes towards food. You've been away from family for many days, and you seek that familiar warmth, that material comforts of your house. And then, even after you witness miracles or magic, initially you will be in awe, right? But then you may see one magic or one miracle after another that Jitendra has seen with his own eyes. And then, when that magical feeling disappears, all that you long for is the familiar comfort. And that happens to all of us. And like Abhijit mentioned, this is exactly the role. Jitendra is like a mirror in front of us, constantly reminding us. You might think that this chapter is funny, and you might think, as all of you, as great devotees, but a lot of me is there in you. How much of an effort are we making every single day and every single night to find God? And then towards the end, Mukunda says, a throb of wonderment stole over me as I realized that 28 days had elapsed since the Benares meeting with my Guru. You will come to see me in 4 weeks. Here I was, heart pounding, standing within his courtyard on quiet Rai Ghat lane. I entered for the first time, and just close your eyes and just transport each one of us back to more than 100 years back, when once again Mukunda comes, entered for the first time the hermitage where I was to spend the best part of the next 10 years with India's Gyan Avatar, incarnation of wisdom.
Now, I think this was summer, so it must have been really hot. But still, that faith, um, of really focusing on God, it really made that trip so blissful. And there are these two stories that are playing out. One is the story of Mukunda, where he yet again, not for the first time, he yet again uh, experiments on and puts into practice in the real world his faith in God and the blessings that it showers on us. And on the other hand, people who only look at that faith, that kind of faith, with doubt that whether such a thing is possible or not, which is Ananta, which is Jitendra. And it's an experience for both of them. For one, it's a continuation of that blissful journey with God, seeing God everywhere. As Master would always say, that instead of turning away from the world and saying Neti Neti, he would say the world has been made by God. So look at everything, but see God behind everything and enjoy everything, thinking that it is coming from God. And the second is the learning for all of us, that the kind of faith that it has been shown in this chapter, there are no saints as such. This book, each chapter has, almost every chapter has a saint, some story about them, etc. But this chapter, interestingly, there are no new saints that he's meeting. The only thing that is happening is something very personal, very true. And actually, this is not something which is unique to have happened in this chapter. So many saints that we know of, that we have read about, have gone through similar experiences. I remember reading about Swami Ramdas, who uh, who chanted the mantra Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, and that mantra actually became very popular in part thanks to him. And as a young man, as a married man, he practiced his devotions for many years, and finally one day he left his home, he left his family for 1 year without any money, without any plan. He just walked the whole country chanting the mantra, but station after station, he met sadhus who helped him. People invited him into his home. He Barefoot, he went till Badrinath. He climbed the snowy peaks without wearing anything, no, just a piece of cloth around him and even no footwear. And nothing ever happened. It was, this day was like 1 year of his life. And finally, that trust that he put in God, finally he ended up meeting Raman Maharishi, and through his grace, he found God. And it is the same Swami Ramdas, who one of Master's disciples then met after Master's passing, and requested him to accept him as his disciple. And he said, "You already have a guru, right?" And he said, "No, my guru has died." And Swami Ramdas looked at him and he said, "You are dead. Your guru is alive." And that is the kind of faith that, when put to test, it really brings out in us. And we can do it slowly, as Master recommends. We can do it slowly and somehow not forgetting about it. And that is why Master always says, don't lose the momentum, whether it is in meditation or it is trusting in being in faith, trusting your faith. Always keep at it incrementally deeper. That's why Master says every day's meditation should be a little deeper than previous days. Why? Because that journey should keep going ahead. Keep deepening your faith little by little, because otherwise, as Krishna says in Gita, the delusion is, it's trying to make us forgetful. There's nothing new that we are anyways trying to acquire. We're just trying to remember what we've lost. And I think we can end by that shloka which Krishna has in chapter 18. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraj aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshaishyami ma shucha. Now, one way of looking at this shloka is, as people generally do, is that you leave everything and just focus on God, which is valid. But what Sri Yukteswarji said is that the truth behind this shloka goes deeper. A lot of self effort it talks about. Sri Yukteswarji explained this shloka as, we are tied to this world by the five senses, and the five senses are activated by the five gunas, right? Shiti, Jal, Pavak, Marut, and Gagan, right? And these senses are activated by these five gunas, but with yoga and the grace of the Guru, under the Guru's guidance, when you purify yourself and always focus on that pole star, that is when you go beyond the five senses, beyond all the chakras, and then you reach the kutastha, which is the agya. And there, then naturally, all the time you don't need to engage in any other dharma. So you can, the parityajya then happens automatically. It is not wrong, and then you are established in God. So staying with our Guru, practicing his techniques, and always slowly trusting our faith little by little to deepening it. I think that is something, if we can all, including us, if we can take away from this chapter, and that sweetness of Brindavan, if we can take from this chapter, I think job is more than well done. Uh, so thank you very much, and thank you
Thank you.
everybody online. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru. We will do a chant now. If you feel inspired, please come to the altar.